Yeah, there's something about your love. Yeah, there's something about your love.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 1 of Volume 1. We made it.
We did it.
The Whiskey Geeks podcast. I am Tim.
I'm Alex, and we're two brothers. We're on a quest to bring you the perfect pairing of the comic and whiskey combo.
Absolutely. Thank you so much to everybody who watched our teaser trailer that came out a little bit ago and for subscribing and liking the stuff so far. If you've gone to our website, thank you. If you haven't gone to the website,
we have a website.
It's going to show up right here. It's thewhiskeygeeks.com. So, hey, we're here. This is episode 1. We're just going to get right into this week's pairing, and then we're going to talk about some stuff, some housekeeping stuff, and then kind of tease out what we're doing for the rest of the volume.
Volume 1.
Yeah, or season, if you will. But today, let's just get right into it. We thought we would start out with some classics. You know, I know a lot of people out there in the whiskey world or the whiskey community, this is old hat to you. For those in the comic world, this book is probably no stranger to you as well, because it's kind of legendary on both sides. But we wanted to kick off this entire show with something classic across the board. Nothing's surprising, nothing's crazy, but, you know, this is fan favorites on all sides. Yeah. What is our pairing today, sir?
Well, we were talking about what it was we were going to launch with, and we've got some really cool stuff coming up that we'll talk about, but we thought, okay, what's more classic to the superhero comic book genre than Superman? So we're like, okay.
Started the whole thing.
The whole thing, right? So we decided, okay, we're going to pick a Superman book, and what about on the whiskey side? Well, what got us into drinking whiskey, enjoying Scotch in particular, was Lagavulin 16.
Yeah. I think that was the first. It's been so long and there's been so many whiskeys. But I do think that Lagavulin 16 was the first time for me personally that I drank something that was, you know, pricey, because it's not a cheap whiskey by any means.
No.
And it was the first time that I drank something and went, this is what
we're talking about.
This isn't Canadian Club or Crown Royal. This is like a whole other thing.
Well, this was like, not only was this our introduction into sort of like tier 1 whiskey, right? This was also our introduction to Islay, which is our absolutely favorite region of whiskeys as well, right? It's our favorite Scotch region over in Scotland. So it's
I've got a region.
I know you do.
It's coming. It's we'll get to that in future episodes. There's a teaser for you. But I mean, Islay's our favorite. I know a lot of people really like Islay. Islay's one of those things where this is a weird comparison. It's like cilantro. Like you love it or you hate it. You know, and again, if you're one that doesn't really like smoky Scotches, just stick with us, folks. We will get you there. We've got some whiskeys that are nice entry level Islay whiskeys. There's Islay whiskeys that aren't peated, which we're going to get to as well. So don't be afraid if you don't like drinking a campfire. Yeah, it's not all of that.
That's fine.
This, however,
is that.
This is
that.
Is just peat right away. So Lagavulin 16. I mean, if you don't have a bottle of this in your house, please, when this episode is done, just go buy one. It's every house should have it. This is actually, and this is the embarrassing thing, this was a bottle kill for me. So I'm now out. So hilarious how I don't practice what I preach, but
it just means that you've been enjoying it, and now you have to get yourself another one. That's all it is. Yeah,
that's the thing with doing this show too. I'm noticing that my bottles are disappearing a whole lot quicker with writing articles and trying to figure out pairings and stuff like that, which I mean, it's a great problem to have.
Oh, it is. So the Lagavulin 16 is matching up with the Superman, what Superman did we decide to go with, and why, I think is also a really important thing. So
now, I mean, I just pulled my Action Comics #1 out of my collection, and we were going to do that one.
Sure, yeah, right, yeah.
I mean, if we had that, we would be doing that.
You broke your 9.8 CGC sealed one to get a nice
one that's like $20 million or something.
Sure,
like that.
sure.
Oh, yeah.
We decided to go with this beautiful thing right here, Superman Unchained, by two of our favorites in the comic industry right now. So it's written by Scott Snyder, who is doing he's just hitting everything out of the park right now. And then it's penciled by Jim Lee, who is on my personal Mount Rushmore of comic book art.
I think he's on the ultimate Mount Rushmore of comic book artists, possibly creators. Writer and artist.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane. Before we get into the story, for you, just because we talked about how Lagavulin 16 was kind of our introduction into the higher end whiskeys. So, reading comics and stuff was a thing as kids that we did. We read stuff back in the 90s and everything. And then, I mean, I definitely took a break. I know you did as well.
Yeah. Life got in the way a little bit, but
I remember
we found our way back.
Found my way back. And honestly, the book that got me back into liking comics as a person in my late 20s was this DC New 52 Justice League.
Yes.
And I specifically picked it up for this cover, and I was like, whoa, this artwork is bananas.
Yeah.
Done by Jim Lee. And so this was my first experience
big jumping back in.
Yeah, and it was my first experience with Jim Lee because, again, I took a huge break. I mean, I know you've got some of them. I remember the X-Men run from back in the day, like when Jim Lee did it. Yes, those ones. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess technically I had seen Jim Lee stuff. And then...
Sure, but you didn't really appreciate it for what it was back when we were, teens, right?
Well, and another hilarious thing, real quick, and then we'll get into this actual pairing. This is a long preamble. One of the books that I really liked as a kid was The Punisher. I love that character. He's my favorite comic book character, I think. It rotates, but he's my guy. And specifically it was the Punisher War Journal books. And then when I got back into it later as an adult, I started picking those books up again. And then I realized that he was the penciler on early issues of Punisher War Journal. So, I mean, I guess technically I have been a Jim Lee fan for most of my comic life. I just didn't know it.
You did. You just weren't aware exactly that you were seeking that out.
Yeah. But I mean, he's the best. If you don't follow him on Instagram,
he's got some great Instagram Live where he's just sitting down sketching. They're great.
He does Twitch streaming now too. Yeah. Hey Jim, when you watch this, how do I get on a commission list, please? Because oh my gosh, I would love a piece of artwork from you. So tell us about a little bit of Superman. Superman Unchained.
So it's a 9-book nice little arc. It's really not difficult to get into, which is really nice because you don't need a lot of backstory. It's not like in the middle of a larger story arc with Superman. You don't have to know what's going on between like him and Lois Lane. It's okay. You know who Superman is. It's Metropolis. We're all there with you. We know what's going on. And then let's give the reins over to Scott Snyder, who I think was fresh off of Court of Owls when he did this run. And then let's bring in Jim Lee along with Scott Williams to do his inking. And let's just knock this out of the park. So what I really enjoyed about this book was it started asking some questions about Superman that you don't normally get. So it was asking about his, when he decides to act. And he specifically gets put up against Lois Lane's dad, who's of course in charge of this top secret military organization. And he calls Superman out for his inaction and says, you're actually killing thousands by not stepping in certain areas of the world. And of course, General Lane's big ace in the hole was he's actually got a super who's been around since the 1930s.
Bum, bum, bum.
Bum, bum, bum. And he goes by the name of Wraith. And he also absorbs the radiation from the sun, and that's where he gets his powers. And he hands Superman his ass. the first time they meet. And
which
it's
you don't see much.
You don't see much.
Not
and
since Doomsday.
Yeah. And what's really interesting is that because he's been on Earth for so much longer, he knows how to do things with his powers that Superman just hasn't figured out yet.
Yeah.
So I really liked that. And there was almost a bit of like teacher-student going on, where Wraith was able to say like, oh, the things I could teach you, but I'm going to have to kill you. Because eventually you're going to cross the line and the United States is going to have to rein you back in.
Right.
So there's that really interesting dynamic that's going on too, which you don't see Superman challenged like one-on-one very often. Like quite often, like Darkseid comes along or Doomsday, and like you get those things, but like one-on-one.
And like, Lex Luthor challenges him, but that's the intellectual stuff or technology and stuff, but it's not often
like
that he
Lex
gets his ass
Luthor,
handed to him in a fight.
And Lex Luthor, of course, like does come in and he makes an appearance in this, and Batman and Wonder Woman make appearances as well through this. So it's a really, really interesting story arc. But the reason we wanted to do this was when we were thinking about like, okay, what are we going to kick off with, and what are we going to match up with Lagavulin 16 in particular, as that was our introduction. Right. We wanted to go with, all right, well, what else also just like knocks it out of the park? And we're like, well, Scott Snyder and Jim Lee. This is a no-brainer.
Yeah. It's kind of one of those things like, there's going to be some pairings coming up, and there's going to be some stuff that not everybody's into. And I mean, granted, not everybody's into superhero comic books. Not everybody's into the character of Superman. We understand that. Not everybody's into Islay scotches or, Lagavulin in particular. But for us, us personally, I would say that you can't go wrong with Lagavulin 16. I mean, even if you're not a huge peaty fan, it's not like an Octomore, which I can see on your shelf behind you from Briclati. It's not a Lafroig. It's not. Oh, you got a Lafroig in there too. Yeah. So it's not like a really hold you down and punch you in the face peatiness. No. There's a lot more layers in the Lagavulin 16, which makes it more accessible. And again, it's a classic. You can't go wrong. And and we feel like this Superman book, you really can't go wrong. So if you haven't read it,
enjoyable.
If you haven't read it, if you're more of a Marvel person, or you're not into the Superman stories as much, give this one a shot. I mean, it's been out for so long that you can probably go to your local comic book store. It's probably potentially on a sale rack or something. The trade will be there, and grab the trade. Please don't order it on Amazon unless you can see that the store for Amazon is through an independent. Go support your local businesses.
Absolutely.
I'll shout out Heroes Comics in London, Ontario, my hometown. Go Heroes. I love that store. But yeah, man, it's great. Wonderful pairing. Let's talk a little bit about Lagavulin.
Yeah. Well, see, you've got a little one up on me here. So I'm going to let you take the reins, and you can flex a little bit and tell us about when you actually went to the distillery. And while you tell that story, I'm just going to go ahead and get in here.
Absolutely. So back in 2017, I believe it was, it's been a while, but my wife and I took a trip to Scotland, and we were kind of, we drove around and we hit some distilleries. We hit Talisker when we were on the Isle of Skye, and went to Macallan and a couple other ones. But obviously for me, being a huge Islay fan, it was let's get to Islay. It's not easy to get to Islay, let me tell you. We were staying at a super swanky hotel called the Cameron House, which is like right at the bottom of Loch Lomond. Okay. And so we got up mad early in the morning and drove to catch a ferry, and it was like a 90-minute or 2-hour ferry over to Islay, and like we had no idea what we were doing, so we just let's just get to Islay and we'll figure it out. And so we get off the boat and ask, like, how do we want to get to some distilleries, and they're like, well, Lafroig is about 2 kilometers down the road. There's like one cab, and he's right there, so you can just get him and he'll take you there. I'm like, sweet. So we went to Lafroig, and we booked a tour, but it was like later, and they're like, well, Lagavulin's 1.5 kilometers down the road. And we're like, what? And they're like, yeah, it's like right there. It might be a little bit more. It's not far. It's walkable. Yeah. So we walked up to Lagavulin. They weren't doing tours, but then we went into their tasting room, which I'm going to try and find for people watching this. I'm going to try and find a photo of their tasting room and put it in here for you. It's the cutest tasting room ever. And so we did a tasting of Scotch and chocolate, which, by the way, that changed my whole life.
Yeah.
Especially with peaty whiskeys. I
remember when you came back and you're like, do you have any dark chocolate? Go get some. And
get some dark chocolate with a peaty whiskey. If you don't like peaty whiskeys, that's how you can get into peaty whiskeys.
Absolutely.
So, like, if you like them, take a little sip of whiskey, take a bite of chocolate, and then sip the whiskey again. It completely changes the flavor profile. It's bonkers what that does to peated whiskeys. So then we did the tasting. It was incredible. We went back to Lefroy, did our tour, did some tastings there, also good, and then walked back to Lagavulin to do a tasting again because it was so good, and then ended up buying some bottles, which I brought.
Oh, show them off. Yeah.
So we brought 3 because we gave one to Whiskey Dad. So our dad's got one.
Whiskey Dad got a good bottle. Yeah.
But we got some cask strength jobbies. So this was the 2017 Distillers Exclusive, which comes in at 54.1% ABV. And then this is the Fay Shield, which is the Whiskey Festival of Islay. Yes. So it's the 2017 Fay Shield, which is a 16-year-old, but it's a full cask strength at 56.1%.
Nice. I do remember when traveling was a thing, and I was able to come down and visit, and I had a bit of that, and it is fantastic.
It's really good. That Fay Shield 16-year-old one's really good. You can tell with this bottle. We've had it since 2017. It only comes out at Christmas. It's our Christmas Day with
celebration.
Celebration. The other Distillers Exclusive is Christmas Day, and others celebrate my birthday.
Okay.
I really like this one, so I've given a couple
slightly more. Yeah.
Slightly more.
Yeah. Well, thank you for letting me try both of those.
No problem. Also, I did bring this bottle as well, which folks might see later. You can't really see with the light, but this is the Lagavulin 11-year-old Nick Offerman edition, which spoiler alert, folks, you might hear about that later.
Maybe that's coming up at some point.
I might come up with someone. I actually poured a little bit of the facial for tonight, just
for tonight,
just for fun, it's the tiniest little bit, but I wanted to remember. I wanted to remember because we actually didn't crack this on Christmas this year. We had something else, so it's been over a year since I've tried it. So.
I mean, what better time?
Yeah, I mean, oh my gosh.
Yeah. Now
I'm so sorry you can't have some. You're not having this with me right now.
Wow. That's fine.
What are you smelling though? Like, give me some tasting notes on.
We'll get it. Yeah, 16. We'll get in here. So, like, I mean, right off the hop, you do get that, like, the peatiness, but for me, it's like a smooth smoke more than like the iodine-y peat that you get in like something like a Lefroy or
when like other distilleries do peated.
Yeah, like
stuff.
they do peated expressions, and it's more of the peat. This, like, for me, it's more of like a very smooth smokiness that comes across on the nose. And I find actually that it gets even smoother after you've had a sip. Like the first one, if you're not expecting that, like I know my whiskey wife isn't a big fan of Islay. She's not a big fan of the campfire, camp smoke, and all of the peat. So like when I go back up after this, she'll know I'm coming just because she'll be able to smell it. But if she puts her nose into this, she kind of gets blasted away because it can be a bit overpowering. I find once you actually take a bit of a sip and you've got that on your tongue, when you go back, like it's even that much smoother. And I mean, Lagavulin 16, it's smooth to begin with. It is, I find, a very tame peated whiskey.
Now, are you a water on your whiskey?
No, like I generally, even if I get up into the cask strength stuff, I will generally drink at least half of the dram without any water. So, and for something like this, I don't find that I need to add any water.
If people out there, if you do find it a little overpowering, and, put a drop of water in. You can get eyedroppers. Eventually you'll be able to go to our store and buy them for dirt cheap, but take a teaspoon, like just honestly, in something that's like the 40 to 46 range, we say, try not to.
I tend to let it stand.
Try not to put too much water in for something a little bit stronger cask strength, like this exclusive one that's 56. It could take a little bit more, but it's again, you do you. If you want to throw ice in it, throw ice cubes in it.
Yeah. Like we said in our intro to whiskey article that's actually up on the website, we really we lay it out pretty simply. Like, drink what you like, enjoy it. That's the main thing, right? That's the main thing we want to get out of this. Like, read what you like and drink what you like. If you want to drink it on the rocks because one, that's the only way you can drink it and that's how you enjoy it, fill your boots. That's fine.
Yeah.
Are you potentially missing out on some of the subtleties and some of the nuanced flavors that are in there? Sure. Yeah. You won't get those layers of flavor that sort of roll in, and especially like on the finish, when something like this that has a nice, smooth, long finish, if it's watered down, you're going to miss out on that. Like, that's where I find a lot of times adding water will cancel out some of the flavors that you're going to get on the finish, especially. So for me, I like to keep it just neat. I don't add water unless, I'm getting into something. I've got a bottle that was actually like poured right from the cask when I was over in the UK one time at the Whiskey Exchange.
Flex.
Sorry, had to. But it comes in at 63.5%. So
that's nuts.
Yeah. So the guy who poured it, he said he was at, he went to some celebration at Buckingham Palace and said he just brought it in his flask and couldn't handle it because he didn't have any water to add to it. So that one, I'll take like a tiny sip, and then I will actually put a teaspoon of water into it because like 63.5% is just, you're almost, the alcohol content is so much that you're actually missing on the flavors because of the alcohol burn.
Right.
So then, I'm all about, adding a bit of water to mellow out the alcohol so that you can actually access the flavors that are sitting there underneath. But for something like this, I'm all about just getting in there, shoving my nose in and enjoying.
Again, we're also huge peat fans. So for us, this is, like that Octomore from Bruichladdich, which we're going to get to as well at some point, those are 50 something percent and a hilarious amount of peat. And, and I'll go into that neat, no problem. But that's me. Again, that's one where if I ever pour any of that, like we did a group tasting where we did an Octomore. And when I did like the first little bit and like took the neck pour out to do like a sample run, like my wife was like 2 floors up and she was like, what the hell are you drinking?
What's happened?
Yeah. What's on fire? But yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's us. We love the peat. We love Lagavulin. There's a reason why it's so popular. There's, it's believe the hype. So the price, what's the price point on that one now? To be honest,
so I believe the Lagavulin 16. So we're in Ontario in Canada, and so these are Canadian dollars. I believe it's currently at 145,
150 ish.
I think somewhere right around there.
So it's not a super cheap one by any means. We know that.
But again, I still feel like this is in the, like, it's not in the, you're paying a premium for like an 18-year-old or like a 21-year-old where you're getting over $200, right? So this is for 16-year-old whiskey that is this good. I mean, this is just what the market's at right now. But
yeah, and I think it's totally worth it. Again, I'm going to go buy another bottle this week.
Yeah,
because killing it right now is because it's sad, and I've always said there's like a very, very small list of whiskey that for me personally will always be in my house. I'm going to go a day or two without Lagavulin 16 in my house, which is sacrilegious in my opinion. But there are a few on that list of like, every person should have this in their house. This is one of those whiskeys.
Really enjoy
before we get into teasers and stuff, let's do our grading. on this, we're giving scores out. So we're grading it kind of like how when you grade comics, which is the CGC, but we're doing, it's the CWG, the Canadian Whiskey Geeks rating. So what we do is out of 10, we score the whiskey, we score the book, and then we score what we feel they are paired together. So I'm going to let you go first on comic.
So yeah, I will go comic, and I really enjoy this. I guess we should probably say about our gradings is we don't hand out 10s very often.
No.
So we really reserve those for like
special.
This was amazing.
Special.
Yeah. So that being said, I'm giving this based on story, artwork, and like sort of the impact that this one had is asking some questions outside of your normal super, like cape wearing superhero story. I'm going with a 9. Nice. It is a beautiful book. Jim Lee is at the top of his game. And like I said, Scott Snyder had just done the Court of Owls run, which was incredible, and really brought a new angle to looking at Superman. So I'm going with a 9 for the book for me. What about you?
Perfect. I give it an 8.5. It's almost 9 for me. I mean, it's all the exact same stuff that you just said. Jim Lee's the GOAT.
Yeah.
Scott Snyder, very close to GOAT status from comic book writer to be labeled the best of all time for writers.
That's
There's
tough.
a couple, Frank Miller and
a couple people have
Stan Lee
has some thoughts.
Hard. I mean, it's really hard for Jim Lee to crack GOAT status when Jack Kirby is is still there, or Neil Adams. But anyway, so yeah, 8.5 for me.
Right.
Great story. I really love it. I'll go first for whiskey.
Yeah.
It's a 9 for me. I want to say 8.5 because I want to save 9s and 10s for something special. But I mean, again, you need Lagavulin 16 in your collection or in your house. I always have it. I'm always going to have it. It's what brought me into the world of fine whiskey. So much so that I went to the distillery
and bought 3 bottles
and spent a lot of money there. Yeah. And if there wasn't travel restrictions, I would have gone back already and done it again. So, but it can't quite get 10 because very, very few things are going to get perfect 10s. These like distillers editions, this 56.1 had a tiny sip of, it might get close because it's real good. But so that's a 9 for me.
We'll have to find a super special book to pair with something like that, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm exactly there with you for all the exact same reasons. It's a 9 for me from the first nosing to when you're finishing, which I'm getting close. Thankfully, it wasn't a bottle kill for me, so I've got some more I can re-up. Yeah. So yeah, it's a 9 for me as well. And I'll just jump right ahead to the pairing. I got 9s for both, and I've got 9 for this. I thought this was a really strong pairing. It's got 2 of the best going on the comic side. It's got one of the best distilleries with their flagship whiskey. So it's a 9 overall for me.
Same. Yeah. 9 for the pairing. I almost went 9.5 for the pairing just because you can't go wrong on either side. Like, pour a glass of Lagavulin 16, read this book, you're in for a very, very good night. It's going to be quite enjoyable. Yeah. So yes, but 9, I think that's fair.
Or afternoon, because I whipped through the last 6 books actually this afternoon, and might have poured a little Lagavulin as well while I was ripping through, just like preparing for this. So and it was fantastic.
Yeah. I also can't come right out of the gate in our very first episode with a 10. That's just crazy talk. But I mean, 9s are still pretty crazy.
Yeah, people will start expecting, everything's going to be like that. So
yeah, it won't be. Don't worry.
Before we get solid 7s coming.
Oh yeah. Before we get out of here, we should give people a quick teaser about how things are going to roll out. So a few housekeeping things. Number 1, You're going to notice in future episodes that things may look a little bit different. Someone's
I just redid my basement
setup. So we have already recorded a few episodes prior to this one because we didn't know which one we wanted to be first. So we banked some content. We've got some ready to go. And then we decided to do this one as the first one. So you're going to notice some things that are different. But we're going to be doing this in volumes, or basically seasons for those listening to podcasts. So I think it's going to be, was it 6 or 8?
Yeah, I think we're going to do. I think we're going to do 6 for the first one with a couple of bonuses because we did the first couple. We only had audio, so we're going to put those out as like bonus. Audio only medium.
For everyone on YouTube, we'll still put it up on YouTube, but there's no video recorded for it, so you're not going to get to look at our gorgeous faces. No,
you'll have to just deal with the professional comic book artwork, I guess.
It's like, we'll put up comic book artwork for those. Okay, but for content wise, so make sure you're going to thewhiskeygeeks.com. You can check out the companion article for this. Now, I also want to say that in our teaser trailer that we dropped, we did say we were going to be alternating weeks. We were going to go podcast 1 week, article next week. We've already changed our minds. Yeah. We're going to do them both at the same time. So you can go to thewhiskeygeeks.com right now and read the article that's up.
Please do.
About this one. And so then in 2 weeks, we'll be back with the next one. So it's going to be on 2-week cycles. We'll be putting up content on our social media at The Whiskey Geeks at Instagram. So go follow us there. Keep checking the website. We'll be putting up some other content as well. Like Alex alluded to, we do have a intro to whiskey and an intro to comics article that are on the site. So if you are coming to us from the whiskey world and you know nothing about comics, there is a wonderful article that'll kind of give you a primer for comics. If you're coming to us from the comic world and you want to learn about whiskey, the intro to whiskey article is fantastic. You did a great job on both of those, I must say.
Thank you very much.
And you can kind of learn all about the different regions and all that fun stuff. And we're going to have more content about how whiskeys get flavors.
It's a good overview. Yeah, it's a good overview. It gives sort of like a flavor profile for like all the different places, or all the main places that are making whiskey these days. It goes a bit more in depth into Scotland with the different Scotch regions, but it gives some good ideas of where you can go. And the main idea of that is you need to find something that's going to sit well with your palate. Yeah. There's no bad whiskey. It's just, it might not taste good for you. So
it'll be right for you.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah.
And
then as things go along too, I think the majority of the first volume season is Scotch.
Yes.
There is a blend.
There is a blend.
We do have a blend, so it's not all single malts. We're not that snobby. We've got some non-age statement stuff too. So we're not, our whole thing is we don't want to be snobby with Scotch. So we're not against non-age statements. There's a non-age statement coming up that is one of my favorites.
Really good.
Really good. So we've got
the blend that we have coming.
It's fantastic.
Really good.
And then when we get into volume 2 and stuff, we've got the whole year mapped out, but we're going to be hitting some whiskey from Canada. We're going to be hitting some Japanese whiskey. We're going to be hitting stuff from America as well. Some potentially some bourbons. We've got a book that we think would go really well with the bourbon. We think we got that one figured out.
Yep.
Yeah. So we're going to be hitting it kind of all over the place. But I mean, in this volume, we've got more Islay.
We've got an Islay. We've got a Highland.
Got a Campbelltown.
Campbelltown. That's a good one.
It's a really good one.
Book-wise, we've got Marvel, DC Tonight. Yep. We've got something from Image.
Yep.
Aftershock.
We'll be hitting Aftershock.
We'll
be getting into Dark
IDW.
Horse, IDW, Boom Studios.
Yep.
We're going to be trying to cover a lot of stuff.
It's not all going to be superheroes wearing capes. Big team ups. It's not going to be all that. We've got some really interesting books that, thanks to people that work at our local comic book shops, kind of steered us in the direction of those, which likely we never would have found. And so happy we did, because they've been some of either the best or funnest reads that we've had. So really excited to share those. Give me one either whiskey or book that you are going to tell the listeners slash watchers about that you're really excited about that's coming up from this first volume?
Oh, like one of the like spoil a title kind of
spoil
thing?
a title. Spoil a title or a whiskey. What are you excited about?
Book wise,
yep.
I'm going to Podcat's here. So sorry if you
that's so good.
almost made our initial
close.
Episode without having Podcat come in. You're probably gonna hear that a lot in most episodes. There she is. I'm gonna say I'm gonna go book. A book that I'm gonna grab this cat.
Bring her up. Show the people.
Hey everybody, it's Podcat. It's not actually her name, but it
could be.
I've done multiple podcasts and she makes an appearance in every single episode I've ever done, no matter what. I'm gonna
FaceTime call.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go book.
Yep.
And the book that I'm really excited to talk about with everybody is Dark Ark.
Ooh, great call.
If you don't know Dark Ark, I'm going to just real quick spoiler. Think of the Bible and how Noah took 2 of every animal. Potentially there was a warlock who was instructed to take 2 of every monster.
Maybe.
I.e. vampires and werewolves and manticores. So this is the story that follows that arc. And it's so amazing.
Yeah.
So you give me a whiskey that you're excited to talk about.
Well, I mean, you know which one I'm going to pick, I imagine. It's this bad boy right here. I'm really excited to talk about Octomore. It is an absolute beast. It is the most peated whiskey on the market.
Yeah.
My specific one, the way they measure it is parts per million. Do you know off the top of your head where Lagavulin comes in?
I don't. Sorry.
No, I mean, I want to say most Islas come in around the 30 to 40 range in parts per million. And that's for the phenols and that's what gives the peat and smoke flavor. That Octomore that I have is at 167 parts per million. So
yikes.
Yeah. But it's incredibly layered. It's got an incredible long finish, and we did this one in a tasting we said earlier, but with a virtual tasting that we ran with a group of folks, and people were blown away.
Yeah.
And then they had a bit of dark chocolate and took another sip. And one of my good buddies actually just started had to put himself on mute because he just started laughing because he couldn't believe the flavor profile change.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I'll say right now, that'll be a bottle kill for me when we do that one. I know I only have a dram left, and I'm just saving it for that. So that's what I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah. I've got the ounce that you sent me for when we do that podcast. It's been sitting in my cabinet for a while. I remember the first time I had Octomore, I think I had the same reaction. The first time I ever tried it, I took the tiniest sip and then had to sit down because I was just and I started laughing. It was just what the hell just happened?
Yeah. It's a punch in the mouth of
incredible
concentrated smoke that then lingers and then changes. Anyways,
we'll get
go
to it
in depth to that, and it's got a great book pairing as well that we won't. I'm not going to spoil it all.
Yeah.
So awesome. Cool. This is awesome.
Hey, everybody, episode 1 in the books. Thank you so much. Thank you to Lagavulin and to DC Comics and Jim Lee and Scott Snyder and Scott Williams
for being awesome.
For making that book for us to read. Go and get all of that stuff at your local liquor stores and comic book shop. I need to thank our good friend Colin Response for the use of his song Something About Your Love as our theme song. You heard it at the top of this podcast. You're going to hear it again here at the end. It's from his self-titled album. It's like Call and Response, but his name Colin. So go and check him out on Spotify. Buy his stuff, please. He is really good. Amazing person, and really appreciate him letting us use that as our theme song. But hey, episode 1 in the books. Make sure you're subscribing on YouTube or Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you're hearing this. Go to our Instagram. Give us a 5-star rating. That would be great.
That'd be fantastic.
Lastly, we have an email address. It's thewhiskeygeeks@gmail.com. Tell us your favorite pairings, or tell us a book or a whiskey that you think that we should cover, because we're always into trying new stuff. So tell us what your favorites are, and go to our website.
Yeah, thanks so much, everyone. And remember, Scotch and Stories, they were made for each other.
Woo! Have a good one.